That woman, Joan, was able to release a video of some more context why she was speaking out before she ultimately made that appearance on that main news program. But what she did is absolutely incredible and certainly a major risk. She's been released from custody in Russia. Why do you think Putin would do that?
Well, it's the first major test of this new law that was put into practice a few days ago, essentially saying that reporting about this quote unquote special military operation had to use certain words, could not use the word war. And so this editor jumping out on screen, she worked at the TV station, is a huge deal. And the fact that she's been let out is it's strange. It's actually propelling a lot of conspiracy theories online where, people are saying this is managed dissent. As long as people feel like there's a voice out there advocating against the war, then there's not much that they're going to do about it. But I happen to think that this was an authentic and real cry from the media itself that they didn't want to be part of this war.
This information blackout, the digital Iron Curtain coming down in Russia, the blocking of Facebook and Twitter. What does this actually mean for everyday Russian citizens? What kind of information are they actually receiving? How many of them can actually get around the firewalls and access information that is available outside the country?
Yeah, it's burdensome, but it's not. They can deal with it. What's happening is essentially that they still have access to television and radio, and so there's a large amount of state media still on the rails. But with the internet, it's different because the media from outside of Russia has a difficult time penetrating audiences and getting in. And so Russians have been, according to some recent reporting in Time magazine, for instance, Russians have been creating VPN parties where people get together and learn how to circumvent the ban so that they can access outside content that has been banned by the Russian government. What's even more difficult, though, is because of the way that platform companies have been acting very unevenly, it's hard to tell exactly what kind of content people are seeking out. And if they are essentially trying to seek out more Russian state media because maybe YouTube was the place that they originally were watching it, or if they're reaching out and finding more independent news and are able to access information about the war that may sway their opinion.
So to that extent, we've obviously seen video of Russians protesting in the streets. What do we know about how the vast majority of Russian citizens feel about the war? Do they support it or are they against it?
Well, this is another thing that's complicated by, the Iron Curtain, the digital Iron Curtain, if you will. Lots of independent media, particularly even the New York Times, have removed their reporters. And so getting a sense of what's happening in the streets is difficult, absent really deeply searching on social media to find TikTok videos. And, you're showing footage of people burning their Russian passports, that they don't want to be citizens of Russia, knowing what Russia's doing to Ukraine. And so as long as those videos and those the content about the protests is circulating, we can imagine the momentum is going to grow more and more towards this anti-war sentiment as, unfortunately, the death toll rises and the damage that's being done to the Russian economy increases. And so that's how I gauge as a sociologist what the temperament of the people are, is how many people are going out in the streets, how many people are getting arrested, and with every twist and turn of the sanctions, how many more people are willing to stand up for their own freedoms as well as to express this anti-war sentiment.
How are organizations like yours finding and debunking disinformation about the war on Ukraine? And I'd like to take it one step further, which is, why does Russia's disinformation campaign matter to a global citizen? Why does it matter to someone who isn't in the country and not necessarily on the direct receiving end of that?
Well, the why is a big deal for us, which is why we do this work, which is essentially we believe on our team, and I think being an academic, I believe that humans have a right to access the truth. And I believe that if you were to search on a platform for, did the Holocaust happen, you shouldn't get a bunch of anti-Semitic websites and posts. You should actually get content that is going to satiate that need for information. And so when we go out and look for disinformation, one of the things that we look for is essentially what is a hot button issue that has the potential to be polarized. And then we look on either side of the issue and try to assess. First and foremost, we look for, is there any what we would call digital shenanigans going on? Are there bot networks, questionable engagement, lots of seemingly to be is spammy accounts participating? So that's like the low level, easy stuff to spot. And then as we start to look at very well crafted propaganda campaigns, especially the ones that come out of Russia, we see them across every platform. They're not on a single platform. They're very well spread out, but they tend to have a kernel of the same messaging. And they sometimes will use a very particular word that it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, for instance, at the beginning of the war, people had heard the term denazification, and that was a very strange word. And so we looked into that and saw that there were different propaganda networks trying to make that idea that Putin was going into Ukraine to denazify Ukraine. The different networks that were trying to make that happen and why it was not a very successful one. Another one that we would look at in particular is we're always keeping an eye on things like biolabs or bioweapons because of the way in which those words were contorted during the pandemic. And of course, we're still in it. But sometimes if you pay attention to disinformation long enough, it's in a pattern. And so we often see the same tropes come back again and the same actors come back.
Right.
And so with the biolab one, over the past few days, we've been hearing that the U.S. and Ukraine have been colluding to build biological weapons together. Of course, that's something that, people have roundly debunked. But at the same time, it becomes a really important source of animosity and confusion, and it can lead to demoralization, of people that would be in support of ending the war, feeling as if maybe there's something worth, there's something that Russia might be onto here. And so I think the last thing I'll say on this is that, truth needs an advocate. And so our work is that work.